level and still we can recognize that he looks more unstoppable than usual is insane. In the top left-hand side for ends, it's Serral.
And in the bottom right-hand side, we have the blue Terran player from Team Liquid. He is Clem. Cats.
In history, yeah. Go on.
Yeah. Every time we begin a grand finals of the DreamHack SC2 Masters, we always have to talk about the scoreline for the grand finals. It is, of course, starting off 1-0 because this is the reward you get as a player for making it through the winner's bracket all the way to the grand finals. Clem lost a series earlier on and dropped down to the lower bracket. So it's kind of a little bit unfair that they both made it to the grand finals, but one of them has lost a series, one of them hasn't. The award we give for making it to the grand finals without having lost any series so far is that you start up the grand finals 1-0. So no, you didn't miss game number 1, chat. No, the overlay isn't wrong. Serral's currently sitting up 1-0 and only needs to win 3 games to win the entire championship here.
Yeah, but unlike many cases and scenarios, this time around, Serral has well earned that 1-0 because the series that dropped Clem down was against Serral, right? That was a 3-1 victory for the Finnish Phenom. So very well earned, mostly with Roach builds. We are looking to see if Clem has adapted, if Clem has something in store, if Clem goes back to his Banshees, which we already saw employed against a Raynor in the first game that they played. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see, Ravi, but I am super excited for this one. I really think it's anyone's game. I think it could be dominant either way, just because they are both going to be capable to, I think, take each other to the limit on any given map at any given point.
Yeah, I mean, not to tasteless over here, but I really do feel like you said, it could be dominant either way. It could be really close to yours. Like anything really truly does feel a bit possible as both these players come into this. So only time will tell. I do want to actually go back to the series that they did play. There was, I think there was actually exactly one game. It was the last game that they played. And Serral did decide to go into more of like a Ling Baneling style as opposed to just the Roaches and everything. So just that one game does give me a little bit of pause or concern because in that game, I felt like Serral was able to identify something else besides just like the Roaches have been really effective versus Clem. But his Ling run-bys and his counterattacks against Clem in that one game were phenomenal, and we're actually allowing him to actually win that eventual series over Clem. So I am really interested also to see, like, is it just a given that Serral's going to go for the Roaches again, which we'll hopefully find out in like another minute and a half, or is Serral actually going to open up a little different this time?
Yeah, and this first Reaper, for me, a lot of the time it sets the pace. It says a lot about where the players are at. Serral already with Brilliant. Micro saving all of the drones, not having to morph a single spore, not missing a single beat with the Zerglings. Clem at the same time is really looking and babysitting this Reaper. Like it's almost like an algorithm that he's executing here, like where you look at the Reaper and it's quickly readjusting, but that's not nerfs, that's not jitters. That's just you move your unit an inch, I'm gonna move my Reaper back an inch. You know, and that's just the level of these players at this point in time. They just have the actions to spare, and Clem will find himself a little bit of an opening here into the main base. Serral, however, identifies where his drone has bounced to right next to the extractor, is able to save it. At the same time, of course, Clem already an action-packed game with those two Hellions trying to reach into the natural, and will find first blood in a Zergling, as Terran usually does.
Yeah, 2 Zerglings actually already getting picked off over there and softening up that drone. The drone, it's a small thing, but even if the drone doesn't die, I mean, forcing it to stay as an extractor for almost like 15 or so seconds, it's a little bit of lost mind time. Clem probably going to be happy with how things have been trading so far, as he still has not even lost his first Reaper. Yeah,
that Reaper, really playing with fire there, going into the middle of 4 queens, but Clem knows the limitations. Now the creep spread from Serral has been phenomenal. There is a Liberator that is likely to be spotted. No, the Overlord actually won't be in position. So this Liberator can actually siege at the third and maybe get a couple of workers. If he gets more than a couple of workers, it will be a very successful Liberator, as both players are expected to react as quickly as possible. But Clem is going to be looking to distract here in the front with this Hellion. The Liberator's already been shift-queued into the backline, and one drone won't even go down as it morphs in the last second into a Spore. One of those Hellions getting a little bit low, but won't fall, and the Reaper once again survives with 4 HP, as it usually does, but finally, Ravi will go down.
Yeah, I mean, just top-notch play from both of these players. Clem actually had a really great setup there for the Liberator, which forces all the drones to evacuate, and then he was trying to dive in on that moment where all the drones are evacuating, so they're all lined up, but man, Serral just had a few too many units, and Clem realized it was not going to be an engagement he could take. With this engagement also, Serral actually taking surprisingly good at trades over there with his Lings versus the Hellions. He's cleaned up a majority of them, and now just the Queens alone are enough to push those units back. Looks like with the Liberator also getting taken out, this is definitely not, I mean, how I think Clem wanted that opening to work.
It's not completely terrible either, right? If we actually look at the resources lost, Clem is a little bit ahead. I agree with you that the Hellions are really good to keep because of the map control that they offer, because they will kind of help against that creep spread. So if I'm Clem, I'm not super happy with that, but he did kill a lot of Zerglings with those Hellions, and that means that those are Zerglings that Serral also had to remake. At some point, he also shot at the rocks looking for creep tumors, didn't find them, but both players, I think, are well-tuned in this series. They both look like they're looking for every opportunity and to use every single action that they have as effectively as they can.
Absolutely. We've been seeing these small little trades back and forth and how impactful those can be later on in the game. But we are going to be moving not into roaches over here for Serral. It is going to be the Baneling Nest and +1 melee being researched over here. Serral, of course, going to continue to churn out some more of those Lings to help get up defenses in place for the follow-up push over here from Clem. But I am interested to see how Clem is going to be reacting once he identifies it is going to be Ling Bane style coming out from Serral.
Yeah, this is a very quick push from Clem, even just not waiting for his medevac, but making the medevac catch up to the army and knowing that, of course, it can fly a little bit faster, it can use its boost, etc. And will manage to situate himself so early here. I mean, there's not even a base to really contest. All Clem wants is the space and wants to force a cancel onto this. So really cool maneuvers. Also, another that I don't know if you would call it a victory or what. This is a huge run by, but already Hellbats in position as well from Clem. The first kiteback will net the Hellbats a good position to not get surrounded by the first bunch of things that show up. And with that, Clem is going to be just fine there. Still looking for trades on the other side. But yeah, one thing is Clem did open tanks, where against Ling Bane, a lot of the scariest moments from Clem that we've seen is when he goes mines, right? So in that sense, Clem already playing to the last series to some degree, perhaps anticipating maybe roaches. Those tanks are still going to be very, very powerful on this map, of course, with those ledges. So that's not all that's there to be said. But yeah, I mean, Serral is going to be, I think, happier going up against Clem tanks than mines, perhaps. Ooh, Clem's not going to be happy about this.
The Ling run by coming on in. The depot is down. The Banelings make their way in as well. So now those supply depots at the top of the ramp are not going to be long for this world. The reactor goes down as well. Now the reinforcements could be in a little bit of danger. A couple of Banelings even make their way into the main base as well. Even if you don't find too many more workers over here, just a lost mining time pulling the entire army back. This is just a wet dream over here for Serral.
It really is, Ravi. I mean, 9 workers have gone down. The entire army is a little bit overstimmed. They had to pull back. That means more position on the map from that creep spread as well for Serral for free. Gets to pick up a tank also for free, more or less. So, I mean, Serral looking fantastic. Also, if we look at the creep spread, he's very consistent with where he's taking bases. He is just expanding south. He is just expanding vertically and towards his opponent in spite of this army composition. But he has so much creep spread that those bases are very well defended.
Clem is going to try and put on a little bit of aggression on the south side of the map. But man, again, we already see on the top right-hand side, Serral setting up for yet another run by. And my fear right now is Cats. Clem is already moving out again with the rest of his army. That run by, if Clem is not absolutely on point with defending against him, making sure that he has something back at home to deal with it. This is a large run by, right? You can't just leave a handful of Marines. You need a lot to deal with this. And the Banelings just go after the depots. There's a handful of Marines still left over, and I think this is going to be enough. A good defense there from Clem.
Yeah, very good defense. And key was to have an extra Marine looking out for this run by. So Clem actually gets a heads up and says and gets to say, okay, let's run back. Actually gets to situate his wall off, like lifts his depot this time around. That means the Banelings are going to have to collapse, at least 5 of them, to kind of break through in the first place. That's less Banelings inside threatening your SCVs, etc. Right? So good heads-up play there from Clem, who is now leaving a unit there, actually a couple of units. So yeah, an SCV kind of accompanying a Marine there in the north, looking for those run-bys now.
Another run-by attempt getting set up over here, but still got the siege tanks, some Widow mines, and a few Marines over there to help defend. While Clem puts on the counter offense in the bottom left-hand side, Serral just does not have his units here quite in time, so he's going to end up taking a lot of damage on that hatchery. He ends up getting a good surround on some of the Marines on creep, but as soon as the rest of them back off, it does become complicated. Serral finding some more Marines on the offensive, though, and is going to look for some connections on these Banelings on those Marines. Widowmines didn't connect at all.
Oh, and the last focus fire there onto that Baneling from Clem will net him a victory against those Zerglings inside his natural base. Clem is a very, very momentum-based player in this match in particular, so I was getting a little bit worried. But with him actually killing the base in the bottom left-hand side whilst defending, we now have a Clem that can maybe lean in heavier on that aggression. The creep all of a sudden doesn't look as scary. The game doesn't look as controlled from the Zerg side.
Yeah, Clem has been able to punch back a little bit. I feel like a lot of those run-bys have caused him so many headaches in the past. It's been the source of, I think, of a lot of his losses in TVZ, but he's been able to adapt even just from the earlier stages of this game and dealing with some of those run-bys, making sure he's not taking too much damage while he puts on this counter offense again. I think that he should get overrun over here, but another Ling run-by from here. Serral is just relentless.
Yeah, really on top of things, right? Like, I mean, that planetary fortress just landed, just started morphing. Clem leaves two Widowmines there to kind of defend or buy him some time. But Serral with just enough, forcing another. Actually, was that a kill? I think that
was a kill.
Oh, man, that's big. And now Clem is forced to actually float his main there, which is already not a position that he wanted to be in.
This is becoming a really complicated situation for Clem because he has to get some damage done now. Widowmine connection's not the greatest. He does lift out of there with some of those Marines, but now his attack on the top right gets sort of thwarted. His attack on the bottom left, not able to find a hatchery there anymore since Serral's mostly expanding toward the top center side. He's going to have to go through a lot more creep to find any more damage for a bit.
This game is so evenly matched and both players are putting each other under so much stress that they can only afford one upgrade at a time. Both of them, right? Like both of them are getting +3, but not the armor upgrades right now, just simply because they feel like they need to commit a little bit more here and there to army, a little bit more here and there to defense. So it's such a difficult, stressful game. In most games from both of these players, we would see both upgrades started. This is not a mistake. I think this is by choice. I think that they are doing everything that they need to do. Clem, of course, has swapped back into the Widowmine style, identifying that Serral is not going for roaches, that the tanks are going to be ineffective compared to the Widowmines against this Ling-Bane style. So since he has found more and more success, and now keeping tabs on the south side of the map as well, Ravi will not let Serral expand for free.
Great split up over there from Serral. Take care of every single one of these Widowmines. I mean, I'm blown away with how many Widowmines there are. Finally, it looks like Clem is going to be able to get one good Widowmine hit, but it's 1 out of 6 or 7, and all of those Widowmines end up falling.
Yeah, and on the other side, this Widowmine is looking to connect Clem with perhaps the retarget fire, but not able to connect it onto the Banelings there from the Widowmines. However, there is a little bit of a Widowmine siege here that is going to provide Clem with a safe haven to drop his units and try again.
16 Widowmines out on the map right now, Pablo. And that's with all the Widowmines that have been going down so far. We've had 12 already end up dying. But Clem has just been absolutely brutal with sieging up just literal siege tank lines worth of Widowmines, going very, very far back, and really slows down Serral's ability to actually continue the aggression.
Yeah, Serral and Clem both will finally find the gas and the resources to start their armor upgrades. So that's a huge Baneling shot, actually. That's a big one. And with that, Serral will take the supply lead for the first time in a little bit, as Clem had been a little bit ahead. And now Serral also has the Ultra transition potentially. Clem is not too heavy on Marauders, but now starting to add some 3 at a time. That's going to be essential as these Ultras pop up. So Clem is not going to be completely caught off guard.
Clem is able to bounce back from a very frustrating Widowmine connection. Oh my god, the Banelings also on the backside going to be able to actually help cover the potential retreat there from Clem as he tries to get another little Ling run by in over here. He's able to get quite a bit of damage, also cleans up the harassment on the north side, so Clem has to back up with that. Clem is able to find a kill, it looks like, on that bottom left-hand base though.
Yeah, I'm not sure how those Widowmines got into that base or how they managed to kill 14 drones, but they did. I mean, props to Niall for trying to keep up here. I am struggling to keep up with everything that is going on the map at all points in time. Both of the players really playing their hearts out, and this seems like one of those battles where they're throwing Kamehamehas or whatever, you know, the magic ones if you're a Harry Potter fan instead, like just endlessly, right? Because it's like they're even at every step. It feels like the supplies have not been 10 supply ahead or apart for a while now.
Yeah, I will say one thing that about Serral's situation that I do like, even though he is starting to dip a bit in that army supply and he's finding some counter damage over here with these Lings, is that he was able to get up that hive tech a while ago, and only now did he finish up chitinous plating. He's getting out the Ultralisk, he's getting up some Vipers. He is getting some transitionary tech over here. Whether or not they're going to be able to be used effectively is still yet to be seen, but it is going to give him a few more options in dealing with this Terran force.
Yeah, but the army of Clem has also been scaling up a little bit. Not as much complexity. I'll completely agree with you on that. But there is a sizable number of Marauders right now, so he is kind of ready for the Ultras. It's still going to be a little bit more difficult for him, but at the time, for the time being, and compositions aside, Clem does have the supply lead. And he does, I mean, if we look at the mini-map, it feels a little bit more blue than red, perhaps, right? The creep is not amazing. Serral has not been able to situate his bottom left-hand side base. There are gases not taken. It is a very chaotic game, but yeah, I actually don't know how to call this. It's advantages here for either player, and I don't know what's gonna happen, Ravi. I have no idea.
Ultra speed upgrade finishing up right there. So now Serral gonna have slightly faster Ultralisk to start closing the gaps on this Bioforce. Another little run by force on the south side of the map, getting ready to snipe off potentially that bottom left-hand hatchery, which I think has barely been able to survive for like a minute at a time every single time. But Serral's gonna be the one that pokes on forward first, finds that the Bioforce is still there. This run by is not gonna be successful.
Yeah, Liberators are gonna be crucial as well. I don't even know that there's a Spire. I don't think that there's a Spire, so there's not going to be a clear answer for those Liberators if they are situated and Serral feels like the need to attack, which might be the case as the economy of Clem has been fantastic. The Banelings running through the mineral line to make sure that the SCVs escape and maybe getting double value there if he can connect onto both SCVs and the Planetary Fortress. But Serral will be content to just take down the base for the time being. So that is a win in itself. No Ghosts still for Clem, but the Liberators are going to be very scary, like I was saying.
Yeah, that's base snipe off was actually really nice there for Serral. Of course, it ends up costing quite a bit, and he's going to be bleeding out some of the Ultras over here on the retreat as he tries to clean up this force on the bottom left. But really, I mean, Clem is only just now saturating that bottom center base again. I think with that, he's got roughly 2-ish bases worth of mining right now. And oh man, he's going to be able to put Serral into an equally awkward position economically as he takes out quite a few of those Ultras.
Yeah, one Ultra also spawns kind of in hell here with a lot of bio looking at it and looking at it to kill it. They will find it. However, a lot of this bio is very low in the red. Clem does have the gas for a ghost transition or something like that. Serral also with a little bit of a gas bank. I wonder if Infestors could be good in a position like this, because the bio of Clem has just been so good at kiting. And of course, Infestors would do a good job, I think, of mitigating that. At the same time, I think Serral might be running out of gas here, Ravi. I mean, it takes one single swift punch from Clem, and it seems like it's happened, as Clem will take game number 1. Action-packed through to the end, but Serral not finding the success that he was hoping to find with those Ultras.
I think if we had a timer going, Cats, that just counted the amount of time and seconds between units engaging with each other, I think that timer would have just been stuck at 0 for like the last 8 to 10 minutes. Like, it was non-stop. One of the players was always had some force out on the map looking to try and get damage done. There was constant trades on the north and the south side, really just kind of, I mean, leveraging the full utility of the entire map. As neither one of the players was able to get up safe expansions, really. Like, their expansions on the south and the north side were constantly in jeopardy.
Yeah, that was actually insane, right? Like, the fact that both of these players have I don't even know what to call it, the resilience to just continue to go at it endlessly, seemingly, during that game. I mean, I am looking at it and I'm like, whoa, leave me a little bit of time to process. I want to see what position's going on. I throw it over to you, but while you're commentating, it's not enough time for me to be like, what's going on, right? It's like just nonstop action. So I can only imagine what they're going through here. And to be evenly matched and to be evenly trading and just punching each other in the face nonstop, and still make it into a long game with neither of them crumbling till the very end there. An extremely impressive game 1. I think everything that we could have expected from these finals from these two players.
Yeah, absolute Lollapalooza there as we get ready to move into game number 2. And now, I mean, hey, Clem is able to put one on the board that actually negates that early initial advantage that you get. And we get to move into Beckett Industries now, Kat. So remember that with a best of 7, with this format and everything, there's no map vetoes. players are picking their favorite maps, their best maps earlier on, because that's just the way like the meta goes for map picks and everything. You want to have your best maps earlier on because those are guaranteed maps you play. Serral picked his map for game number 1. That was his pick. Now we move from Lightshade on to Beckett Industries. This is Clem's pick. He's the only one that's technically won a game in the series so far, so momentum's going his way a little bit. I'm interested to see where this one goes, because this could be a really big moment here for Clem.
For sure. Now, spawning in the top right-hand side, before we get on to talk more about it, it's for Team Liquid, Clem.
And down over here on the bottom left-hand side of the map, we have the red Zerg player from Team NC Sports. He is Serral.
This is tough for Serral. I mean, if he is to make a statement, this would be the perfect map to do it. But this should, by all effects and measures, be Clem's, to be honest. I mean, this is potentially the best TVC map in the map pool, right? And we never see it go through when it comes to this matchup. We already see Serral adapting, right? There was a clip when this map came out where Serral was already thinking about the potential for Clem's Reaper when he sees how fast the first Reaper arrives at his natural base. He's like, oh my god, like just imagine Clem's Reaper here, right? So that is exactly what he's accounting for with this pull first. He's just saying your Reaper's gonna arrive a couple of seconds earlier than normal. That's a little bit too much damage.
Yeah, absolutely. I love those little adjustments. And you know, fun fact, by the way, of course, we already mentioned before, both these players played each other in the finals of the last season for the DreamHack SC2 Masters Europe. Serral won 1 map against Clem. Do you want to know what map that was that Serral actually won on? There was only 1 map he won.
Don't tell me it was Beckett.
It was Beckett Industries, of all things. And I vaguely remember a little bit about it. It was a very kind of funny match where Serral did open up, I think, again, like with a pool first and everything. And he was very aggressive. He was able to find these little opportunities where Clem just was a bit out of position and everything. And this is a very, very punching map in the sense that if you are able to just capitalize with your units with just a few seconds of time, like it doesn't take very long to get your units into a nice little run by attack or something. Like you can get across the map so fast on this map. I am interested to see if Serral's going to play this map out also extremely aggressively.
Yeah, and this map is, not a bad map for Roaches from that perspective. From the perspective of Roaches, will be able to cross very, very fast, right? So if you get that momentum, if you get a good defense, you can just cross and potentially punish. But I expect that Clem will most likely be going for tanks on this map. And if he takes his third on the triangle, it's going to be actually difficult for Serral. Already a little bit of a complication here for Clem as his SCV has to run away from the links. But it's going to be difficult for Serral potentially to punish with Roaches on the triangle because there's so many ledges from the main and the natural base that can protect that base on the low ground against the Roaches, right? So it's kind of a tricky map when it comes to Roach Ravager. There are a lot of good and bad things to it, but we'll see how either player adapts, as there is going to be a Reactor and Helion starting here for Clem, and I am guessing there will be some sort of a Banshee opener also for similar reasons. One of the slower units, at least in the air, that Clem is going to be able to cross the map with, and more importantly, perhaps be safe against Roaches in the early.
Yeah, absolutely. This is especially one of those maps where having those Hellions out really shuts down hard a lot of the creep spreading and everything. But that Roach Warren is coming out pretty early on, 3-minute, 30-second Roach Warren. I think that Serral is recognizing maybe a bit about the map features and is going to make sure that he has some extra little firepower here to push back a lot of these units.
Yeah, but there is going to be that Banshee and the Cloak, one of the better possible answers to the Roach. However, Serral might look to even cross the map with extra Queens. He's making an extra 2. I would love to see that, but Cloak is going to be available for Clem, so that is scary in its own right. The Hellions, of course, are going to be not very effective against the Roaches and actually find their way potentially into a natural base. This is not just going to do damage. It's also going to provide a lot of information in terms of the economy and what it looks like for Serral. That means Serral's going to be potentially hyper-committed to an attack that he was probably planning on doing on 44 workers. Now he's going to have to do it off of less, and there will be no transitioning out for Serral if he doesn't manage to do just killing damage, basically.
Yeah, the full scout over here. If there were any doubts in Clem's mind, seeing that there's still nothing else over here outside of just a handful of those Roaches being made. Man, this Hellion's still being alive even. So frustrating, I'm sure, for Serral. yeah, he's just going to continue to drone back up and starts up his lair. But I actually think the Hellion saw the lair starting up at the last second.
Yeah, and that's going to be perfectly fine for Serral. I mean, Serral is the type of player that would be willing to cancel that lair and oftentimes does offer the information. So I don't think Clem can read into it starting too much. But obviously, there is the possibility for that. But I think that's a great call from Serral, actually. Just not to commit for the Roach attack at all. He only made the 3. Starts, like you said, his lair. And that's the right call because there will be Banshees out. This Roach attack would not have worked most likely. Already a tank on the way as well for Clem. So he's taking all the preventive measures. And Serral with a little bit of a feign with those 3 Roaches moving out. But the Banshees could still cause mayhem.
Yeah, there's 5 queens out on the map right now. 2 of them are on the front lines, though, so that leaves 1 queen per each one of these bases. Spore Caller is going to be important. Cloak, of course, immediately revealed, so there starts up that Overseer. And so far, Serral having a solid defense, but how is his main base?
How is it? There's no vision up that high ground, so the queen's not able to really kill those Roaches already. The gases have all been evacuated from Serral, not losing a single drone so far. Now the first couple of drones go down, and an Overseer to spot those Banshees, as Serral recognizes that he needs to be able to shoot them from the low ground, or else they would do too much damage. Before they even do damage, the Overseer's already headed there, so beautiful jobs to adapt from the Finn. Will only lose 2 workers, and that is actually a pretty great start for him now.
Yeah, that is a fantastic start there. A really solid defense from Serral in a situation where, of course, the pivot into trying to go back into like macro and everything, it does have a little bit of a cost associated with it. So he did kind of needs a really solid defense against those Banshees to make things work, and he pulled it off.
Yeah, for sure. There's always, of course, a possibility that he was always planning to play defensive, but I mean, he fooled me, and he might have fooled Clem, as Clem is very anti-Roach right now. And I mean, that's not to say that Clem doesn't have an opportunity to push with this very anti-Roach force. But for the time being, I think he's just going to situate himself defensively by the looks of it. So, but the tanks are not sieged. So maybe we're going to be looking at a move out here from Clem. Not sure. But I'd be pretty content just taking this base for now.
Yeah. The siege tank positioning over here at that little choke point can be really nice as well. Siege tank still not sieging, though. And I mean, it's going to be a bit before 1-1 and combat shields finish up. So I'd be very surprised if he did a move out right now, right? It would at least be in like maybe a minute or so at a minimum.
Yeah. For sure. But those tanks have not, I mean, they're not really taking advantage of the best possible siege positions, potentially with working with those ledges and so on. So that hints to me at least that Clem wants to be a little bit further forward, or that he feels extremely confident about his position in defense and maybe wants to look to apply pressure sooner rather than later. And that wouldn't be a bad choice if he knows that Serral's already transitioning and 75% done towards his hive tip.
Yeah, and not only that, he's already got a couple of infestors out. I mean, Pathogen Glams be damned. Like, he's just going to build up the energy on those 2 infestors. We've seen how effective they can be when they are able to find 1 or 2 of those good fungal growths, especially, you know, just paired with a decent-sized Roach force. Marines got to be careful. The infestors were very... Oh my god! The fungal to end all fungals. The entire army of Clem on the front lines just pops right there. Oh my god.
Yeah, that was absurd. And I mean, I think that Serral, if he was in a unit producing capacity, if he hadn't invested too much into tech, we might have seen it just punch all the way through. But no one can expect to get that sort of fungal, and you know, Serral gets the perfect fungal onto that army. Now he's going to use that to transition into his lurkers, potentially Vipers soon to come, already getting some Hydras, applying some pressure at the front, and Clem has to be very careful and very cognizant that he just lost those units. So he's going to respect the army of Serral, but this is Serral that's looking to buy time and to steal Clem's map at this point, right? It's looking great for him.
Yeah, Serral is not only buying himself time for those infestors to regenerate some of the energy, he has his lurker den on the way. His 1-1 upgrades just finished up. He's finding little trades. He's able to do some damage to the tanks with that last little push in. I mean, all of these things are going to be going great for Serral. Yeah, he's at the max out point right now. His lurkers are morphing in. Once those lurkers are there, getting a 4th base is going to become an extremely complicated plan for Clem.
Yeah, with this many tanks, I do wish that Serral allocated some of his very precious gas into maybe 1 or 2 Vipers. I mean, he has 300 gas. As soon as the lurker then finished, he starts the lurker upgrade and 6 lurkers, right? So he's working with very little room to wiggle as far as his strategy. It's extremely tight. So it's very extremely difficult to be like, oh yeah, he should definitely be making Vipers. But with that many tanks, I really would love to see one. And I think eventually we will see some Vipers. And nice Roach counter-attack here from Serral will actually net him a few SCVs. In the process, 6 have fallen. Now Clem will carve his way into the natural base of Serral, but gets fungled yet again. The fungles and the corrosive bows will combo together to get some wins for Serral on the board, but up this cliff.
Oh my god.
Clem is going to be able to trade effectively against a choked up army. Now having to retreat to the tanks that have lost most of their buffer, though, Ravi. So this is getting a little bit dangerous of a position for Clem if his reinforcements cannot reach.
Yeah, those lurkers are preventing this Bioforce from going too much further forward either. So eventually, even though the siege tanks are still a little whittle away at those lurkers, Clem is going to go ahead and try and rotate around, but that means that the siege tanks are largely unsieged. The few siege tanks that are sieged get corrosive biles down. At one Banshee going to be putting in work.
Yeah, reinforcements are here now from Clem, however, so that's going to be very, very difficult, I think, for Serral, as Clem may be overextending outside of the range of their siege tanks. Really, really wants to make something happen and taking good fights against this Roach Ravager, against all odds near the lurkers. So both players really playing with fire here. Still not a Viper to be seen. It would have been really helpful to dislodge this, but Serral manages regardless. So he is going to hold for now. That is a very important hold. Behind this, Clem has already situated his next base. His fourth is on the way, and he is consistent with the location of that fourth and where he is attacking as well. So pushing this side of the map, that gives him some offense while defending his new fresh base.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very tough situation here for Clem, though, as he is still just kind of staring down the barrel. And this is not a map where you can really give up a lot of ground, because if you give up even just a little bit more ground, you're suddenly no longer on offense. You're just fully on defense because your base is right behind you. Now the lurkers are continuing to try and find little angles to attack. They are trying to do some harassment on the north side. That does get cleaned up pretty quickly. No real workers going down over there. Clem looks like he might be trying to rotate around toward the north side with these siege tanks and the Bioforce. I think there's just so much creep you have to walk through, though.
Yeah, and there's 2 Vipers on the way now, and there's not that many tanks left either. So these 2 Vipers are going to be huge here from Serral, and I'm not sure what Clem is going to do after some of these abducts happen, because those tanks are really his key pieces, right? He doesn't really have any other way to breach the lurkers. Now getting Liberators, which might help come due time, but here is the abducts. 2 abducts onto that much army really is just gonna eliminate anything that gets abducted. So 2 out of 4 tanks at the front here, or out of 3 tanks actually from Clem, will get taken down right away. And with that, Clem recognizes that he can no longer stay here. But I mean, what do you go back to, right? It's so difficult to transition from something like this. Serral now seemingly has every piece available that he wants and needs.
Yeah, we're seeing Liberators start to get added into the mix over here for Clem, but this Bioforce is getting cornered. The Medevacs are finally going to pick up a few remaining units, but so much was just lost right there. Even just the 1 or 2 roaches continue to harass. This is a nice map up over here for Clem, finding a lurker and finding a base, and an important one at that. This is going to actually equalize the base counts for a bit. It's still just a little bit scary, though, because I'm looking at that army supply right now, and honestly, Cats, I'm still a little bit worried for Clem.
Oh yeah, he's in a ton of trouble, but that was a really cool move. I mean, he's really, really thinking about everything, right? Like, he's already clicked onto that, but let's see what happens here first, as the lurkers are gonna get caught without any buffer in the front, and Clem knows that he can take that fight in spite of having very little bio at the front here. That also means less liability against his lurkers, and actually will find a cleanup much needed for him, still lagging something like 30-something supply behind at all points. So it's definitely tough. He's trying to snowball this momentum, however, Ravi, it's looking more and more difficult. The Vipers have gathered enough energy again, but they actually will commit a little bit of a flaw here from Serral. Will suicide onto the army of Clem. Will this be a little bit of an opening, as Clem is still producing those tanks? No more Vipers in production for the time being, so all of a sudden, the tanks are a little bit dangerous again.
Yeah, opportunity for the tanks to actually get into a nice position over here. And that one siege tank is going to be very far away from this fight, so it's not really going to get to participate. Bioforce also trying to go through those accelerator zones. Clem finally picks up and backs on out. Siege tanks will get 1 or 2 shots off before he does get taken out. There's no other forces around the map here for Clem. This is all it right over here. And as this army chooses them further back, this is not a planetary. You can't really fall back to it for defensive purposes. This is an orbital. He needs to hold his ground here.
Yeah, and Serral is being very cautious, perhaps overly so, not to go further in here. He doesn't necessarily know how many tanks there are in the backline. It's just the one for Clem. Serral is just going to choose to stabilize, which I can't blame him for, right? Like, this is the kind of move where you don't know how many tanks are there. Maybe you suicide there, and that's terrible. Instead, he's just going to siege even the mineral line a little bit from further away. The orbital command also under fire. 2 Vipers have been remade on the side of Serral, so he can always just reset. He's happy to be where he's at.
Yeah, as this situation carries on forward, Clem is the one that's going to be at a bit of a disadvantage. Clem looks like he's going to try and go for the breakthrough over there, though, as he did force a lot of those units to back off for a moment. But Serral actually has this one lurker continue to harass his units in the center, and now Serral identifies, all right, you're trying to move out? No. You don't get to do that right now. I'm keeping you completely pinned back.
Yeah, the Vipers this time around are going to be using both of their spells, actually 2 different spells there, to try and mitigate things on the side of Clem, that is looking to kind of swarm from every which angle, but he just doesn't have the forces to do that. Serral will recognize that and kind of just collapse onto this side, and there's nothing that Clem can do to save the tanks this time around. The medevac's very low, will likely get taken down by the Hydras, if not the next parasitic bomb. And now this base under fire with the lurker sieging. I don't know that Clem can dislodge this position. I think that this might be the equalizer as far as this series is concerned, and potentially, I mean, definitely Serral pulling a little bit ahead just by virtue of having that map advantage that we mentioned earlier. So things are looking amazing for the Finnish Phenom, and yeah, Clem will have to GG out.
Fantastic job. Serral able to take Beckett Industries yet again, second time between these 2 season finals. It is the map he has been able to win. In the first map, Serral isn't going to actually put on the board. That does bring him to a 2-1 map lead since he started off with that 1-0 advantage, but it is definitely an important win there. If you go and lose on Beckett Industries also over there, Clem has a lot of momentum riding in his favor, so really, really nice that Serral was able to shut that down.
Yeah, I mean, these players are going to be so exhausted after the series, I feel like, but lucky for them, there's nothing else after. But yeah, I mean, 2 games, action-packed from start to finish, right? And the entire time, I mean, not a sign of tiredness or of trying to even save energy on either side. I mean, there was one moment there that I thought was so cool, because Clem is focus firing the hatchery of Serral, and the hatchery is so low that it needs like just one more volley from the rest of his bio. But Clem identifies that there's a lurker and has the presence of mind to just turn around to mitigate any damage from that lurker, kill the lurker, and then continue to kill the hatchery. He didn't need to account for that lurker. He might have lost an extra 2 Marines if the hatchery finishes, if the hatchery is finished first, or if he just attack moves. But he's like, no, I actually have the time and actions to spare to turn around for a second, kill that lurker, and then finish the last volley onto the hatchery, right? So both players really just playing insane here. And I feel like we witnessed the first blunder of the series at all in those Vipers flying over the bio, right? Like, that was the first glaring mistake that either of them have made in my mind. So it's just been fantastic.
Yeah, both these players are playing extremely well. I like the way you phrase it, you know, no holds barred right now. They are throwing everything at each other. And now we get to move into Jagannatha, which is going to be an interesting map because it's not a Beckett Industry. It is one of the maps that I think a lot of Zerg players feel a little bit more comfortable on. But I think one thing that Serral was able to do a really good job of in that last game was it felt like there was a point in time where basically Clem's only aggression was if he took his whole army and was going to be aggressive with it. And I feel like that was very, very different from the first game, for example, where it was just lots of constant aggression from small bits of an army and pieces. And I think this is a map a little bit better suited to that first game style. So as we start down here, the bottom left-hand side of the map, we'll see how things play out with this young lad down here. He is the blue Terran player from Team Liquid. He is Clem.
Pulling ahead in the series with amazing gameplay. In the top right-hand side for ends, it's Serral.
Oh man, so Cats, last game we did get to see a lot more of that Roach style coming out of Serral, but it goes back a little bit to what we were talking about in the earlier stages. I almost forgetting actually ended up happening over there, but it was a game where Serral had thrown down the earlier Roach Horn. It looked like maybe he was gonna be aggressive there, ended up taking a bit of drone damage, ended up just doing the fast transition out, so we didn't quite get to see what his original game plan was. But regardless, we've had one game where he has gone for like the Roach style into the mid and late game stages, and one game where he's been able to go into like the Ling Bane. Do you have any preferences going on to Jagannatha? Which style would make more sense?
as far as the map is concerned, I think you can do most things, but maybe something like Link Bane Muta is pretty good on this map. I mean, I really think that last game was kind of strange. Like, yeah, I don't know what the original plan of Serral was. I've seen him do both, right? Like, we saw him in the last series against Clem stop at 44 workers off of 3 bases and go pedal to the metal on the roaches. But we've also seen him just open with 3 to 5 roaches before and just try to stay defensive with them in the early game, especially when he was actually doing the hatch blocks, which we haven't seen from him in a while. He would transition that into roaches because his gas was a little bit later. So maybe adapting to the map a little bit and getting the roaches defensively is something that he likes doing on Beckett. And I mean, it worked wonders, right? So I'm sure both of these players are actively adapting. I think that they're both very malleable as far as their strategy is concerned. As Clem showed us in that series against Showtime, he's kind of willing to switch things up on the fly, right? So it's a very, very exciting series, no doubt, as this first Reaper is trying to do what it can. And like Niall showed us, there is an SCV that's potentially going to be proxying a starport by the looks of it.
Yeah, this Reaper is going to be just buying a little bit of space and time, trying to stay as active as possible, snipe off a few of those lings here and there. But behind, I guess, the potential of that proxy, there is, of course, going to just be this third CC being thrown down in the main base. There is going to be the proxy starport and castle. What do we usually see from these kind of proxy starports?
I think it's going to be a Hellion drop. I think it's going to be a Hellion drop for sure. Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't proxied, we could be thinking about something like a mine drop as well, potentially, if there was, you know, the gas available. But because it is proxied, the Hellions are going to be very quick to cross the map. We already see 2 Hellions in production. So it's kind of just a super strong timing where Clem is looking to take advantage of Serral's expectations, right? Like at this level, you know exactly the capabilities of your opponent. If you're leaving from your base, you will hit with a Hellion drop at the earliest at this time, right? But this changes a little bit if you're not accounting for your opponent being willing in the grand finals to proxy a starport. And that is the case here. There is the medevac, and we have the next 2 Hellions in production. Clem is still going to show presence in the front here. So he's going to say, hey, my Hellions are here, by the way. And he's going to get a good idea for where the Overlords are. Serral, however, does have an Overlord in position, Ravi, to spot the Hellion drop, so he will have a little bit of a heads up when that does happen.
Yeah, what I do like about the way that Clem is also playing this out is by rallying the Hellions also to the front, the angle of the Hellions moving over toward the right-hand side would maybe be a little bit of a giveaway. Yeah. So by actually rallying them straight over to the left-hand side, over closer to the third base, it does make it look a little bit more convincing that the Hellions are just going to do their thing. But now they head over to the main base. The Lings going to be here after all the Hellions have actually unloaded. But is there a good enough surround over here? It looks like so. And Clem very quick with the pickup.
Yeah, and yeah, just to talk about that for a little bit longer, there is also that Overlord that sees the Hellions moving towards the right, the 2 Hellions that were looking to the night creep. If we can point to that Overlord, Niall, right under your camera right now, to the left, the next Overlord to the left. Yeah, the one that's next to those queens anyway. That Overlord spots the 2 Hellions headed south, and Serral knows that there's no creep to the night south, right? So he already has the Lynx start to run back to his main a little bit earlier, just because it's like, where would those Hellions ever be going, right? There's no creep there to really threaten. So obviously Serral expecting Clem to be consistent, to be smart about his movement, and to take advantage of every opportunity, does expect the drop with the bare minimum amount of information, and that will be enough for a defense for the time being. So Clem not really being able to capitalize. The starport was quick to fly back, but that's still a starport that hasn't been used for a little while. So I would say early game advantage, Serral.
Yeah, I mean, of course, those Hellions would normally also be denying creep spread and on that left-hand side, just causing all sorts of headaches. And the fact that they've just been sitting in this medevac looking for opportunities to get drops and stuff done means that none of that has happened. Sure, some of the queens are a little bit further on the right-hand side, ready to try and snipe off that medevac, but all of the rest of the creep spread has gone completely unabated over here for Serral. So he's got to be feeling like he's in his comfort zone right now.
Yeah, +1/+1, almost matched. Serral's going to have a couple of seconds worth of an advantage from that, but it's unlikely that we see that timing being exploited. The Reaper's still trying to look out for information, and will find timely a fourth base of Serral that's not even done yet. So very nice job. The Reaper will give its life. There's no going out of there. There's no getting out. So no use in even paying attention. So that in itself is a good decision to just abandon him. He did his job. Now Clem knows where to position, where to apply the pressure, knows where the fourth is, knows what his goal is. Already clearing some creep here. and now looking to evacuate with those Hellions as he identifies, I guess, that Serral has enough to clean him.
Yeah, I was going to send those Hellions along the left-hand side of the drop, as Serral is definitely going to be mostly respecting all these Marines that are on the front line. Trying to snap off a couple of these creep tumors. Bailing does get used on a few of the Marines that cannot pick up into those medevacs. Clem gonna look for every little bit extra damage you can find as the Hellions move on in, but the Queen's already here. There's not even that many drones to roast, honestly.
Yeah, and that is, again, Serral working with very minimum information. He sees the other two medevacs, I think, and thinks, wait, where's the Hellions? There's 4 Hellions missing, right? So he just repositions the Queens off of that because there was no vision. This was not something that Clem was doing in vision or like showing to the creep tumors. It's just information that Serral is gathering because he knows what's not there, and he's keeping tabs, and they're both paying just incredible amounts of attention. And yeah, I mean, they're just really so well matched. This is such a treat, Ravi.
Yeah, these Marines struggle to find a little bit too much more damage, so the Lings are able to get sniped off over there. The Marines finding some decent trades before the Banelings show up. Only 1 Marine dying there in exchange for a handful of those Lings, and also buying a lot of time and attention away so that these Marines on the left-hand side can stim forward, snap up a couple of these creep tumors with the Banelings. Ooh, on the accelerator zones gets a little bit scary, but it will eventually escape away to a medevac.
Yeah, the medevac, of course, there. It was shipped out of Clem's command centers, and it's like, go save him, and manages to pick off the last few Marines there. As now Clem on the other side looking for a cancel, but Serral with a flank of his own will force Clem to pick up. There is no room to go into that main base, however, as a Spore and many Lings are there already to greet.
Yeah, Clem doing a cheeky little unload there on top of the Banelings, and he gets the Banelings to trade for individual Marines. Not the worst trait in the world there for Clem. But at the end of the day, we do see that finally most of the aggression for Clem has been forced back a bit. He's lost a little bit of ground with where he was trying to be aggressive. So now he's going to pull up a larger portion of his army on this left-hand side and start making a deeper push forward. 2-2 is only about halfway finished up here, so he may want to take this a little bit slowly if he does want to actually wait for that.
Yeah, but Serral has not given him an inch for free, right? Like, he is contesting for every creep tumor on that side, so Clem won't have an easy time pushing anywhere right now. And I love that Serral is looking to use that creep threat and that advantage that he has been defending so perfectly, really, throughout this entire game after the failed opening from Clem to get Burrow himself. So we are likely to see denied bases with burrowed Lings. We are likely to see Baneling bombs wherever there's not creep a little bit more forward. So if Serral can take space forward, he will continue to tax Clem's advances at every step. And here comes a big surround from Serral. Already good position from 2 tanks of Clem, but they will get surrounded regardless. And the swarm is here, Ravi. This is looking good for the Finn.
The 3-way surround absolutely brutalizing that army. Not much of a chance to actually stand over there. Good scan does clean up some of the burrowed Banes that were set up on that left-hand side ramp. And at the same time, Clem does go for a drop over at this low ground expansion. The Lings are quick to react, and it looks like there might be a load up into the main base, but look at that. Spore Crawler and Lings already prepared. Serral has just got eyes and ears and actually arms everywhere.
These guys are, it's like they're playing Arkham mode or something. It's actually absurd. So Serral is gonna try to collapse onto this army, and he will find the collapse and the cleanup potentially before all of the army of Clem is here. So really, really nice. Even the Queen's coming here to threaten those medevacs on the retreat. The only saving grace in the last couple of minutes for Clem was those Banelings, right, that he managed to pick off. And that was the burrow revealed as well from the side of Serral. So Clem can be a little bit more cognizant and know that there is potential for burrowed Banelings from here on out. But regardless of that fact, he is on every other regard a little bit behind. Serral already transitioning into Vipers. He already has Hydras, and in combination, those 2 units can actually get rid of medevacs rather easily. Lurkers are already started to be upgraded as well. And Ravi, things are looking really, really good for Serral to extend his lead here in the series.
He's been doing a great job with it. I feel like he's especially been doing a fantastic job just capitalizing on this map. His surrounds on all of these engagements have been so helpful in being able to just pick off all these siege tanks, collapsing in with the Lings from behind so that the medevacs can't just do this like nice and easy escape out of here alive or just stim back and kind of escape out. You really do get put into an awkward position with a lot of these trades. Now, being the aggressor does become a little bit more complicated because you can't just rely on those easy surrounds and everything. Your opponent's going to be well situated in defensive positions. But I mean, that's what the Lurker's transition is going to be for, right? Is that you can get a lot more aggressive with those positional defenses and offenses.
Most definitely. I mean, it's going to be so difficult from here on out. For Clem, it is, I mean, he has as much as he can have on his side of the map, but Serral already contesting for each and every single base, right? He has Banelings burrowed next to one base and 2 Lings burrowed just to prevent landing. Already Clem doesn't want to be spending those cans and will have to move units in tandem with his CCs. Serral will know whenever Clem is or wants to take a base thanks to those Lings. So complete control for him as he drops 2 Nidus Worms in order to make it more difficult for Clem to target down. He already has this Overseer in the back of his base and an Overseer as well, potentially at the third. So never mind, this may not be 2 Niduses in the same spots. I think this is going to be Serral trying to apply pressure here and looking for a surround. Very good Blinding Clouds as well. The Banelings are just going to synthesize and completely destroy the army of Serral here. At the same time, the Overseers are ready to potentially drop Nidus. So this is not it either for Serral, who is still maxed out. Clem in dire straits right now. His CC on the left has finally landed, and that's a victory in its own right. But Serral is well aware of it, and so he is kind of moving his entire army to threaten that perhaps. Nope, he's gonna think otherwise. But I would love to see that, maybe that pressure before it becomes a planetary fortress. Still, the Nidus have not been revealed, I believe, Ravi.
Yeah, I mean, the Nidus is actually what he used as the finishing move against Clem last time. Here we go. The Lings are going to try and force at least a liftoff over here from the Orbital Command. Eventually, Clem should have enough over here, especially on that high ground, to help defend. Pushes back the Lings and Banelings. But the Nidus Worms are going on up, and Clem, does he notice? Is he pulling any units over there? So far, nothing really happening. A couple of Ghosts are making their way forward, but, I mean, actually, the Lings and the Banelings on the front lines are also just a little bit of a concern. They did manage to overwhelm that high ground position.
Yeah, and right now, Serral has enough that he is actually outpacing Clem, or at least outpacing the amount of things that Clem can do. Clem with a lot of Ghosts, however, will actually repel the Nidus Worms attempts. I mean, those can be deadly with those Lurkers, but Clem in position and will actually kind of equalize in terms of supply, at least if he can secure this base. And with the Ghost composition against this sort of thing that Serral's doing with the Lurkers, I mean, we could still have a game in our hands. A ton of medevacs are most or a lot of the army supply for Clem here, however.
I mean, it ends up being a very funny trade, right? Because a lot of the expensive units, like all those Lurkers and everything, go down with the Nidus Worm, but still a lot of damage is done at the front there for Serral. And now Clem is going to try and move forward, but pushing on to creep, still a little bit of a scary prospect. So many Ghosts in the mix, and they are well protected by those Marines on the front lines.
Yeah, perfect splits on those medevacs from Clem right away, instantaneous, right? Like, those parasitic bombs are going to do the minimum possible amount of damage I think that they can put out onto those medevacs. And now Clem looking to stabilize. If he can split the map, if he can take that base that Serral is protecting so zealously with his army over to the right and looking to apply pressure on that side, Clem is still in this. I mean, he has actually been trading a little bit better because Serral has been swarming so much, and this is the win condition at this point from Serral, is keep the economy of Clem down and then look for a reset if he can actually get on top of those Ghosts. But these Ghosts are hella scary, Ravi.
Hella scary indeed. These 2 Lurkers do need another scan. There it is. The snipes come on out. Able to clean that up, but it's still at the cost of one of those command centers. I think that there was still a leftover command center that managed to lift up, so you can go ahead and float that back over and still have some mining over there. But this is, I mean, this still just becomes this question of when does Clem feel comfortable actually moving further out onto the map and everything, because there's still a lot of crew spread to work through to try and get any sort of damage done, as scary as Clem's army is.
That's kind for 2 Lings, actually. Not a good trade for Clem right now, who will get a CC cancelled. And again, Serral, knowing his win condition here, I think, is gonna be to kind of strangle Clem out of this game, right? Like to say, like, you cannot mine. And look at Clem's bank right now. It's non-existent, right? So he is not maxed, but he is close to being maxed. The scary thing for Serral here is the army of Clem is extremely potent, and so Clem will go out and look for a little bit of retaliation here as he clears some creep as well. I mean, the map is not as red as it once was, but Serral has set himself some win conditions If he can clean the army of Clem once, I think the Finn is still in a good position. But this army, I mean, all the ghosts with full energy, full HP. Clem is looking to stabilize and actually take it to the late game and potentially bring it back in a late game that was looking so difficult during the mid game against one of the best late game Zerg players ever.
A couple of the Vipers are now out. He's going to try and corner a bit of this army with the Lings and the Lurkers. And the Medevac's going to be able to pick up and evacuate on out of there. There come the Blinding Clouds, though. Seashank's taken out of the fight. This is a nice cleanup over here from Serral. And remember, with all the damage he was doing to the economy and just denying that bottom right-hand base, this is really big. You cannot afford to lose this army as Clem.
You cannot. And Serral knows that he's going to go as quickly and as close as possible to those ghosts to make sure that some of them will fall to those lurkers. And now the supplies in this game is so even. I mean, they both are toe for toe. They just don't have the money to get far ahead of supply of each other just because they're trading so evenly, just because they know their win conditions, because they know where to apply the pressure and when. And 3 of these games, all 3 have been action-packed from start to finish. And from start to finish, I have no idea who's going to take it. I was feeling Serral heavily for the majority of this game, but at this point, Clem has looked phenomenal on the recovery, and I don't know what's going to happen right now.
Yeah, I mean, I still like a lot of the ways that things are going for Serral. Yeah,
that's what's going to happen.
GG.
Actually, I guess he was pretty low on the ghost count there. I'm looking at the ghost count was only 3 at the very end there. Lagging 20 supply behind. I mean, I didn't think that was going to be it. But Clem calling it quits right there and then. I'm not sure if he necessarily needed to just yet. But what a game regardless. Amazing job from both players. And Serral will take a hefty lead in the series.
Yeah, absolutely. A nice economic lead there in that last game as well. Serral going to be feeling good. So we're going to be going to a break. Give these players a chance to think about what they want to do for the rest of this series. We'll be back in a little bit. back, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to be moving into our next game here after a very, very strange and intense game on Jagannatha. Cats, I know you were looking at some of the end of game stats and everything there and seeing like what could have made Clem feel like he was totally dead and didn't have a chance in that game anymore.
I think processing catches up to Clem and he feels like he's in a worse position than he is. I think that game was still playable. He's definitely behind, right? But he had recovered, I think, from larger deficits in that same game. I mean, at the time that he left, he was only 20 supply behind. 3 of that being workers. He's barely any supply behind. Like army-wise, I think he was something like 14 army supply behind. You know, it was roughly 20 supply behind, 159 versus 181 or something like that. Income was actually very similar at that point in time. So yeah, I don't know that was the right call to call it quits. He was definitely a tiny bit behind or a little bit behind, but not as much as he had been throughout the game. So yeah, a little bit baffling, but maybe, yeah, Clem, you know, under so much pressure and Serral finding so many bases, he just felt like things were getting out of control, or that Serral had a massive bank, or that he was already maxed. It wasn't the case, but regardless, in the bottom left-hand side, it is the GOAT, Serral.
And over here on the top right-hand side of the map, a blue Terran player from Team Liquid. He is Clem. He's now got to win 3 games in a row. Can't really afford to drop any more maps because this is match point now. I mean, regardless of the situation that made Clem feel like that last game was just, he was too far behind, it was unplayable or anything, this does put him now at match point. There's no extra leeway anymore on, you know, giving up on any of those games. Like you have to just win every single game from here on out.
It's gonna be very difficult, but I mean, if anyone can do it, it's surely Clem. But that last leaving, it does make me feel like he's running out of gas a little bit, right? Like he was staying, for example, on Beckett, when in positions where I thought, wow, this is like just barely, it's probably irrecoverable, right? Like, and he's still spending so much energy and doing things like turning around for that lurker instead of finishing off the hatchery that I was mentioning earlier, right? So maybe just energy expenditure was a little bit too high. Maybe taxing him at this point, looking to keep a little bit of that energy intact for a potential comeback that is gonna have to be huge from him if he is to ever make it happen. But yeah, I can't stop thinking about that game, Ravi. I mean, the income was so similar. The real estate was there for Serral. Like, yeah, for sure he had advantages, but I'm a little bit sad. I'm a little bit sad that we didn't get a little bit longer of a game to conclude with the fireworks that I think Clem could have still provided.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be something that'll be tough, and hopefully it's something that at least at this point, you know, the decisions have been made. Clem can put it out of his mind and not think too much about it. So getting ready to move into Oxide over here for game number 4. I do think that this is one of those situations where Jagannatha, there was like a lot of things in the earlier stage of the game, because of course Serral got into a good position, and I think that a lot of that was off of just really, really good early game engagements and stuff. Serral was able to constantly shut down and find a lot of these like great surrounds and trades against Clem's army. A little bit harder to do, I guess, on Oxide sometimes. So I am interested if there is going to be like a similar style and everything out of Serral in this game.
Yeah, he did go roaches, I believe, the last couple of times here on this map. So this could be the option as well for Serral. That's a Serral that doesn't need to necessarily attack with roaches, but that can kind of contest for the later stages, for the mid-game stages with them, as roaches gonna be difficult to make work on hyper offense, I suppose you could say, on this map, right? Like there's a lot of ramps, ledges. It's a little bit of a tank paradise early on, but then it opens up a little bit.
Yeah, going for a pretty quick lair over here. 3 minutes, 30 seconds. Yeah,
I don't know what to make of that. I mean, there is one single gas for the time being, so we'll get additional clues as Serral takes additional gases. At this point, I can only imagine it's... I actually don't even want to guess. It could be something like a very quick Nidus. Or it could be something like... still, no gases down. So it's just a layer of one gas.
Yeah, this is interesting. The only other advantage I can think of, like, which, I mean, he's still droning up and everything. So I'm interested to see when he stops droning, if he does stop droning. Because if he just keeps droning, it's like, I guess this... I mean, no, there's no reason why you'd want to make a lair this fast.
No gas,
like
though.
Overseers for the Banshee Cloak. Yeah,
I mean, that's what he's gonna have to use it for. It will be a Queen Ling Nidus. So this is kind of bananas. It's not what you would expect. And if this was the case, I would have expected that Serral would have been moving the Overlord a little bit sooner. Oh, no. But there is an Overlord moving. You can barely see it on the minimap, actually. But there is an Overlord moving towards that area from of Clem. And Serral is actually sacrificing this Overlord very smartly. And that will kind of take that off the mind of Clem potentially, right? Like that there could be an Overlord to look out for there. So Serral will be going for a very unorthodox strategy here to try and close out the series. Clem's SCV gets dangerously close as it tries to take its own gas, and Serral here in position to drop that Nidus in the very corner. I don't believe Clem can or has spotted it, but let's check in his vision. He does see it, actually. He does see it on the minimap. So Clem not reacting for the time being just because it's so unexpected. And there's going to be Hellbats on the other side of the map. This game is about to get very chaotic as the Nidus Worm does explode in the main of Serral. That's a lot, or in the main of Clem. That's a lot of Queens. On the other side, however, the Queens are not here to defend against the Hellbats. I wonder if there's going to be something like Spines or something being made here from Serral, who is now pulling back with some Zerglings. But really, the Queens want to be fighting the Hellbats. The Zerglings probably want to be on the other side of the map, trying to do damage. Only 6 SCVs have fallen from this, and now the Lynx are going back in the Nidus to do the damage that I was talking about. Now the Queens are here to defend against the Hellbats. 3 orbital commands, so Serral knows that he has to do a ton here, Ravi.
Oh, and it looks like actually the Hellbats are enough to take out these Queens, missing some of the transfuses there. We end up seeing that Clem is going to be able to continue to do damage. He should be able to guarantee the kill on that third base. Third hatchery does go down, and while Serral is continuing to get some damage done over here, he is put in a much more committed position. Siege-Tank is going to get taken out over here, though, and just the production is being camped. If he can snipe off Stim, that would also be a huge boon for any additional Marines that are popping out of these barracks.
Yeah, what an unorthodox strategy. What a crazy game. Clem is just going to be happy to pull back after having killed the third base of Serral. They are even in workers, and that CC and the main will be forced to lift off. But remember, this is still 3 orbital commands. The problem is going to be the real estate here, as all of the production of Clem will be forced to lift off. And you have 3 command centers, but where are you going to land them? I mean, that's going to be the issue here, as the rest of the Hellbats are now here. But that is all that Serral has to work with. These Banshees are going to be essential. The transfuses are going to have to be on point from Serral, but I think that's something that we can easily expect. And it's going to be extremely difficult for Clem to go up this ramp, Ravi.
Yeah, it's also I mean, he definitely needs to reclaim some territory, as he is at least going to try and land some stuff over the third. The Nidus Worm is going to block the command center from landing over there as well. Wow. And this is not exactly a super mobile army for Clem, so it's going to take a bit of time to actually go clean that up as well. During all this, Serral is also transitioning out. He's been droning up.
Is there a creep tumor?
Yeah. Is he going to get the tumor at the Nidus unit?
No. Yeah, I mean, that would have been amazing. There's the Queens there. They have to look for creep tumors, but the army of Clem here is to deny them from happening. I mean, yeah, every creep tumor right now is super important. Serral's going to use this opportunity to run Lynx into the natural base. Ravi, this game is insane.
I think Serral's doing a great job over here, though. He's finding a few workers here and there and everything, but it's just the lack of production for such a long time. Serral has been teching up. He's been getting up the transitionary pieces. So what good is 3 CC if you aren't actually able to mine or even land most of those command centers?
Yeah, the Queen's now in a very annoying position, preventing what little Clem has to mine at his natural. He has, of course, established his third, and there is a tank now available. That is a crucial piece here from Clem to dislodge this Queens from Serral. No transfuse there, as the Queen was just turning around to do it. The other Queen falls a little bit too fast, however. 11 more workers have gone down, like you were pointing out to. And now the Queens, I don't know that they want to go down the ramp, but they really want to get rid of that Liberator. But Clem with the repair, just in time. Amazing job from Clem. Just he knows how important each piece is. And these Banshees, I mean, they have been put to work over time, not even with Cloak to work with the entire time. Clem trying to now find damage onto the other side of the map, but the young French has run out of gas, and Serral will close a serious convincing